Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of What If Civilization Started Over, a series where we explore the topic of what if civilization started over. Like I said last time, I'm not the first person who has come up with this idea, and I'm not going to be the last. But hopefully, I am able to bring a creative and unique topic, point of view, perspective to this idea. But what I didn't mention last time was where I got the idea from. Obviously, there are many people out there who have done it, but the main people, I think, a lot of people will say Ada's Pro is where they got the idea from. One of his most popular and long-running series, and then another smaller content creator who I will link down in the description, has also kind of pushed me to try my own take on civilization starting over. Is now here in the second episode, we're likely going to, if you want some debrief on what's going to happen, we're likely going to be seeing the final bits of Europe being occupied by countries, the first Asian nations maybe being established, and then a lot and lot of battle and war and chaos. So, with that, let's begin. First of all, we're going to start over here in France, where the lime green nation kind of just expands up through Normandy, through Brittany, wanting to take control over the English Channel, is kind of a long-term standpoint. Right now, there isn't really a reason. They just want to expand their area, but in the future, they will find owning this bit of land will be very beneficial. Now, up in the north, we see the expansion of the Swedish nation. Not really much happens though, just a bit of expanding to kind of control the Swedish peninsula, kind of gain more dominance, kind of separation from the Orange Country. And speaking of the Orange Country, shockingly enough for this nomadic nation, they begin to kind of settle down, establish some borders here in Poland, Slovakia, Czechia, just kind of making themselves more of a pronounced area, as some islands over here in the Greek area over by Turkey I've kind of drawn out so that we can represent them more, because they will be important probably in the future. Now, we're going to begin where we ended last time with this pink nation. Now, like I said, they were being way underappreciated, kind of just neglected. We didn't really do anything with them, but they were the third country ever. They've likely had some time to kind of build up some strength, and they're likely going to use that now as some expeditions up through Iran, up into Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, up in the stands, sees them kind of beginning to grow their empire as they expand up to the Caspian, kind of taking over everywhere that they've explored. They become a very large nation, which, as we found out in the past, has its toll. Right now, nothing's gonna happen, but expect this isn't gonna last for too long, as we have some expansion from the Iberian kind of Portuguese nation, establishing a very strong hold over Western Iberia, as this kind of Aragon country, or I guess Catalonia is a better way to put it, occupies the rest of Iberia, as Iberia becomes one of the first major areas to be fully, occupied, as they kind of also expand up into France, up through there. As now we see Rome, they finally decide, screw it, kind of push up into the Alps, into Switzerland. Obviously, no guarantee that they survive past here, but we have a new nation forming over here. Kind of just groups of different people breaking away, the Benelux area kind of all under one government, pushing into kind of German areas. They're not going to be very strong. It's kind of a placeholder, if I'm going to be completely honest, as of right now. The Lime Green country continues their expansion deeper into France, wanting to establish their control over this part of Europe, as they basically take a hold over most of modern day France, as Rome kind of meets up there, through the Alps. They establish a border and connections through there, as the Orange Country, along kind of the modern day Polish border, continues their growth, but right here is where it stops because out east they have a rebellion. I don't really like that color. They have a rebellion that kind of slows down their troops. They have to go deal with that. Unfortunately, the Orange Nation isn't able to kind of hold off this rebellion, and they lose a large chunk of area of land, a pretty significant piece of land as well. A lot of people lived out here, so they do lose a lot of population. The Orange Country does remain as, one of the more predominant powers still at this time, but much, much less compared to what they were. As, again, a lot of this is just going to be new nations forming. As we see a purple nation forming up in Denmark, kind of along like the Hamburg River. I don't think that's what it's called, but that river over there, through Copenhagen, all of that. They occupy all of Denmark, as much of central, the Germanic areas, kind of Austria, parts of Czechia, aren't really established, but they are like known very well to people in the area. As the Pink Nation, we see kind of establish borders, are kind of fully finished conquering the Caucasus Mountains. Obviously people aren't going to live there, but that is kind of where they just kind of occupy it to occupy it. No one really lives there, they just want to have it. But unfortunately, the happiness in this nation doesn't last for long, as that area up in the Caucasus, up in, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Armenia, up through Crimea, kind of bordering up to Turkey, just breaks away, and now we have a major civil war on our hands. The pink kind of Iranian Empire of Iran, kind of breaks away or kind of has to fight their own people. They are able to, make slight gains up on the territory. They are able to push up to the Black Sea. Then they hit the mountains. And unfortunately, mountains are hard to cross at this time, so the Pink Nation is kind of forced to submit into letting this Caucasus Mountain Nation go independent. But within the Caucasus Mountain Nation, we have another rebellion, as this kind of Georgian part kind of breaks away, kind of the northern part of it all breaks away, but this is more peaceful, no really fighting happens. They kind of extend their borders up through here, up along parts of the Black Sea, and that's about it. As that's where we leave off with those pink people. But now in the Carthaginian Empire, kind of, the fear that the government had last time comes true, as we see Sicily and Sardinia breaking away from the empire, as I don't really like any of these colors, so we're gonna do this color instead. And so the Carthaginian Empire loses their land on Italy, but they don't really fight back, not wanting to spark a large-scale conflict within the nation, to lower tensions that are already high in Iberia and other parts of their nation. So now we see the new Yemen, kind of the Cyan, expanding up out of Eritrea, but they don't really go too far. Instead, they take their focus on exploring southwards along the coast of Africa, wanting to see, what is there. But once they kind of get past Kenya and, Somalia, they kind of stop. They discover that this is all land, there wasn't full confidence what was there, but now they do, is kind of just some more small dents being made into the Saharan desert, kind of down the coast of Morocco. But we see a major expansion discovering much of Norway, basically all of the Baltic Sea. Um, they discover Finland, Estonia, Latvia, St. Petersburg. Um, and so, yeah, that's a major expansion there. The Pink Nation continues kind of learning more about India and all of that, but kind of getting stopped due to the mountains. They send many voyages are sent. They discover Sri Lanka and the waters around it. Up in the Baltic Sea, kind of all of this gets discovered because boats have just gone up and have been like, what's here? Carthage fully discovers that part of the ocean. The Yemen discovering the Cape of Africa. That's how they know about that island. So a lot of just kind of sea expansion happening. As now over in India, we see a new nation. We see the a kind of pale green forming at that's not the right color. Forming at kind of the cape, the tip of India, the very bottom of it, as a new republic. These pink people from the Pink Nation have kind of gone and established nations. Same with this kind of salmony nation in between. They have set up their own kind of country, their own republic, or the kingdom, empire, whatever you want to call it. And then finally, we have kind of like a light brown color nation that sets up in India as well. These nations are fairly large, but imagine there's a lot of disarray in these nations. It's kind of like the Orange Nation. You can kind of think of it in a Holy Roman Empire sense. They're not stable, but they're not like they're not one, but they're not one, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's a good example. Anyways, the Orange Nation pushing up through Latvia, through Riga, all of that. And not that color, that's literally just the ocean. And then another breakaway occurs as we see a Latvian kind of Baltic nation setting up below Estonia. But in Estonia, they set up their own government, which kind of stretches all the way along through here up into Finland. So a very large kingdom, a very large country, very weak. However, they don't actually control as much as you might think, military strength wise. As Crimea kind of doing the first thing it's really done, kind of expanding, making another connection with this kind of Georgian country. We have this red Romanian, I feel like more Ukraine fits this better, kind of expanding up north. And then finally, we have this new nation that had just broken away from the orange one, also expanding outwards, kind of a Belarus. I feel like that's about where this is. I don't really have a good reference. But yeah. But now, we see more expanse inward on Europe. Orange country, after just completely failing to stop the rebellion in the east, continues their quick and successful expanse. They kind of hit the Alps, which they're not really used to, so they stop. This Danish, the purple country, expanding further south, meeting up with the Benelux, Dutch, Belgian, Luxembourgian nation, as that also kind of expands. The lime green France as well also kind of expands, creating some very interesting borders. But then, one group of people just decides, nope, we're gonna set up our own Germany kind of country, more it's not really Germany. Germany, a lot of it's Germany. A new German country kind of establishes itself in this area, but unfortunately, it's just not stable. So immediately, tons and tons of itty bitty pieces kind of break away, do their own thing. And this is the first time we see, like, a true kind of chaos area. That color does not work at all. We see a gray country, and in the end, this quote unquote German country is reduced to this little speck. As this area is going to be a pretty interesting area. But for now, we got to get into the Turkish and Albanian War. If you saw last episode, if you haven't, go watch it. I don't know what you're doing here without having seen it. This Bulgarian, or not the, this, Turkish country used to control all of this, all, Greece and whatnot. Greece left. Turkey tried to come back and take it, but Albania jumped in, taking a lot of land. So, by all technical means, there is still a war going, but they had kind of gone to a stalemate. Not really wanting to fight each other, but Turkey really wanting control over the area back. They set off on massive naval efforts, regaining basically all the islands, kind of pushing up into Greece. However, up in the north, Albania has begun its own mission, but they have a secret trick up their sleeve. Once they kind of reach where Greece and Turkey meet in real life, the Bulgarians join in. The Bulgarians very quickly start pushing in towards, modern day Istanbul or Constantinople. Obviously, this being such a major city, it's walled off, so their efforts are stopped. But they hop over the strait and onto Turkish mainlands and begin a rapid move to encircle the city. Now, because of this, Turkish troops retreat from the islands, and Albania is able to make quick work of that, occupying much of this land, pushing into Greece, or into Crete and the southern bits of Turkey. Turkey now having their biggest city surrounded and having much of their land lost, sues for peace. They are given their connection to their main city back, but they are not given any lands outside of that. Albania doesn't want anything on the Turkish peninsula, so we see a new country kind of forming, kind of popping up, which is going to be a completely different color. It's going to be that color. I don't like the dark, like, brown, purplish color. But then, taking advantage of the weakened government, the formerly occupied blue country breaks away as a purple country fronted by Cyprus, which kind of takes over some bits of this southern area. Up in the north, we have kind of a northern Turkey area breaking away, kind of like, I don't know if Kurdistan is a good way to put that, but a very large amount of land breaking away up in the north in Turkey. As we see in the pink country, they make contact, they connect up with the salmon country. That's about it, just small things that matter. We also see a new nation. We see like a Kuwait nation kind of forming, breaking away from a little bit of the cyan and a little bit of the pink. The pink nation kind of overextending at this point. They also begin losing their lands in, like, Syria, kind of Iraq. They lose that land. This country that just formed out of Turkey begins to take advantage, growing outside of its area. And now the pink country is slowly being pushed eastward, not too severely though, as not much time remaining in this one, but we see kind of the Latvian country. Wasn't on that tool. This country, the Latvian country, kind of establishing some better borders. Down in Lithuania, the Orange country kind of pushing its boundaries. And then this Baltic Empire up in Finland continues its expansion with all the lakes in the area in Finland. It's a breeze. We just see some expansion from this kind of Swedish country. And also the Danish made the voyage. They took like the Oslo area, kind of pushing up along the Swedish border, along the Norwegian coast, which going with that helps explore more of this. But the final little tidbit of this episode, the Green Nation sent a voyage across. They did it. They were right. There's land. Oh, there's land, alright. There's a lot of it. As much of the southern parts of England are fully discovered up into kind of Wales. And then the English Channel is turned into a very heavy sea access area where the lime green country takes over much of this southern bit of the British Isles. And that is where we will leave off on episode 2 of What If Civilization Started Over. In this episode, if you for some reason weren't paying attention, we covered much of occupying the rest of Europe. We saw nations forming in India. We saw rebellions. We saw countries breaking up. We saw large countries falling, and we saw the discovery of a historically in real life very important piece of land. Who knows what that will turn to be in this timeline? As if you want to see more of this, please go like and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for this series, go ahead, put them in the comments. I won't have seen any from part 1 as I recorded these and uploaded these at the same time. But after part 2, any suggestions I will try and incorporate. So please go ahead, drop those down below. Like and subscribe again if you want to see this. And I will see you in episode 3, where hopefully we will cover pretty important topic. That's where I'm going to leave it. As now, that's all. See you next time.